Welcome to Give God the Game Plan, where I share testimonies and stories to inspire, uplift, educate, and entertain. This story is sure to encourage all those who have lost loved ones that they were very close to. My parents got divorced when I was 2.5, so my mom had to get a job. I have an older brother and an older sister. My brother is 3 years older than me, and my sister is 3 years older than him, so they were both old enough to go to school. But since I was only 2.5, my mom had to take me over to my grandmother's house every day to babysit for me while my brother and sister were in school. My grandfather worked at a machine shop and started very early in the morning and got out around 3:30 in the afternoon. My mom would pick me up around 5:30. She worked till 5 and sometimes a little bit later, so she would pick me up on our way home from work. So we would either go get my grandfather if my grandmother kept the car, or I would be there when he got home. And I remember every day hiding somewhere and trying to scare him. I remember my grandpa acting surprised every day he came home and I jumped out from behind the chair or the door or something like that and tried to scare him. I'm saying that to say that I ended up very close to my grandpa, closer than my brother and sister, because I got to see him every day. Well, every day during the week anyway. I remember sitting on his lap and him telling me his hunting and fishing stories, and a lot of my memories were just about being there with them, observing them, going about their everyday activities. So my grandpa had a heart attack when I was 12 years old and was in the hospital, and then came home and was out for about 3 days. We had a little bit of snow, and he was outside, not really shoveling snow. He was told not to exert himself, but he was just pushing like an inch of snow with a shovel, and had another heart attack and died. I got to see him after he got home from the hospital, and of course I just assumed he'd be okay and would be there forever. But anyway, a few days later, we were at the funeral, and I was sitting there, and my grandmother came up to me and said, "David, have you said goodbye to your grandpa?" And wasn't really sure what she meant. And she said, "Well, come on, you need to go up and say goodbye to him." And I remember saying no, I didn't want to. I wanted to remember him the way I had just seen him. I didn't want to remember seeing him in the box. But she made me, and she kind of grabbed me by the wrist and dragged me up there. And I just, looked at him, and as soon as she let me go, I went and sat down and started crying. And as soon as I started crying, I just hear this voice say, "Why are you crying?" And I didn't speak out loud. I didn't hear the voice out loud. It was in my head. And I just said, "Well, I'm crying for my grandpa." And I now realize it was God speaking to me, because he said, "Well, your grandpa's with me now, so he's fine. You don't have to cry for him." And I remember thinking, oh yeah, that's right. I know my grandpa's in heaven, and he's with God, and heaven's wonderful, and everything's great up there. And so I kind of thought about it for a second, and I thought, well, I guess then I'm crying for myself because I'm going to miss him. And the Lord said, "Yeah, that's okay. I understand. But don't be sad for him. He's with me now, and you'll see him again someday." Looking back on that experience, I realized that I think children are more open to God in spiritual things in general. As we get older, we learn to, be rational and logical about everything. And I think about that and having that conversation with all those people around, and, just having this full-on conversation with God at 12 years old, and I didn't think anything of it. I didn't think I was crazy because I was hearing voices. I didn't really even think, oh, wow, that was God or anything. I just, had a conversation with him, and like it was all normal and an everyday thing. But I can't say I remember God speaking to me like that, at all back then or any other times when I was a kid. But after I became a Christian, God brought that back to mind and just made me realize, he'd been speaking to me my whole life. I hope this encouraged you if you lost somebody that was very close to you, or if it reminded you of God speaking to you when you were young. If there's somebody you're waiting to see again in heaven, leave their name in the comments. I'd sure appreciate it if you would like, share, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.